When you're cooking just for yourself, it hardly seems worth the fuss, and all that washing up for one plate. But some of the best British dinners were made in a single pot, and they cost mere pennies. In my day, we fed a whole family on next to nothing, and those same recipes are perfect for one, with plenty left to freeze. So pull up a chair and let me share 20 cheap vintage one-pot meals to warm you right through. Number 1, a proper Lancashire hot pot. Let's begin with the one that always brings folk to the table. A Lancashire hot pot is nothing more than a few cheap chops or some stewing lamb, sliced onions and potatoes layered on top like the tiles on a roof. You brown your meat, tuck it into a dish with a carrot and a good pour of stock, and lay those potato slices over the lot. A knob of dripping brushed on top, then into a low oven for a couple of hours while you get on with your day. The potatoes go golden and crisp on top and soft underneath, drinking up all that lovely gravy. Make a small one and you've dinner tonight and another portion for the freezer. It costs coppers, it fills the house with a wonderful smell, and there's just the one dish to wash. That's my kind of supper. Number 2, Liverpool scouse. Up in Liverpool, they've a stew called scouse, and it's the very soul of thrifty cooking. It's the sort of thing sailors' wives made when money was tight. A bit of cheap beef or lamb, or even neither on a lean week, cut small and simmered slow with onions, carrots, and plenty of potato. You let some of the spuds break right down until they thicken the whole pot into something rich and comforting. All you need alongside is a slice of bread and butter, or a spoonful of pickled red cabbage if you're feeling fancy. It only gets better the next day, so make a pot full and let it see you through 2 or 3 dinners. Cheap, honest, and warming to the bone. No wonder they named a whole city's folk after it. Number 3, corned beef hash. Now here's one for when the cupboard looks bare and payday feels far off. A tin of corned beef costs very little and keeps for ages in the cupboard, ready for a day when you can't face the shops. You fry up an onion, add cubed boiled potato and the corned beef broken into chunks, then press it all down in the pan and let the bottom go crisp and brown before you turn it. A splash of Worcestershire sauce wakes it right up. Crack an egg on top if you've one going, and you've a proper plate of food for pennies. It uses up any leftover boiled potatoes a treat, so it wastes nothing at all. One pan, 5 minutes work, and a supper that sticks to your ribs on a cold evening. Number 4, bubble and squeak. If ever there was a meal born of making do, it's bubble and squeak, and it's ideal when you're cooking for one. It began as a way to use up the leftover greens and potato from a Sunday roast, so nothing went in the bin. You simply mash together your cold potato and cabbage, or any greens you've got, season it well, and fry it in a hot pan with a little dripping until it's crisp and golden on both sides. That's where the name comes from, the bubbling and squeaking it makes in the pan. It's lovely on its own, grand with a fried egg, and finer still with a rasher of bacon if the budget stretches. Cook a few extra potatoes and greens on purpose one day, just so you can have this the next. Waste not, want not. Number 5, mince and tatties. Up in Scotland, this is a Tuesday supper in near enough every home, and for good reason. A bit of minced beef goes a very long way, and it's one of the cheapest things at the butcher's. You brown your mince in the pot, soften an onion and a chopped carrot in with it, then add a spoonful of flour, a good pour of stock, and a shake of Worcestershire sauce. Let it bubble away gently until it's thick and savoury, and serve it over a mound of mashed potato. That's it! No fuss, no fancy business. Make a batch and it portions up beautifully for the freezer, so on a day you don't fancy cooking, there's dinner waiting for you. It's the very definition of a cheap, cheerful, one-pot meal, and it never disappoints. Number 6, sausage and bean casserole. When you want something hearty with barely any effort, this is the one to reach for. A few sausages, even the cheap ones do nicely here, browned in a pot, then in go a chopped onion, a tin of tomatoes, and a tin of baked beans or butter beans. A shake of herbs, a little sugar to round off the tomatoes, and you let it all simmer together until the sausages are cooked through and the sauce is thick and glossy. The beans make it stretch, so 2 or 3 sausages feed you for a couple of meals. Mop it up with bread or spoon it over a jacket potato baked alongside in the oven. It's filling, it's warming, and it costs next to nothing. 1 pot and washing up you could do in your sleep. Number 7, pea and ham soup. Here's proper thrift for you. 1 cheap ham hock from the butcher can feed you for the best part of a week. You simmer the hock long and slow with a bag of dried split peas, an onion, a carrot, and a stick of celery, and the meat falls right off the bone into the pot. The peas cook down into a thick, golden soup, and there's no need for much salt because the ham sees to that. You shred the meat back in, and what you've got is soup, dinner, and comfort all in 1 pot. It freezes like a dream, so ladle it into portions and you'll bless yourself on a cold day. A hock and a bag of peas cost barely anything, and look at the meals you get from it. That's clever housekeeping. Number 8, Scotch broth. Scotch broth is the sort of soup that's a meal in itself, and it was made to stretch a little meat across many mouths. You start with a cheap cut on the bone. A bit of scrag end of lamb or a beef bone does grand, and simmer it with a handful of pearl barley and a bag of soup vegetables, carrot, turnip, leek, and onion, all chopped small. The barley swells up and thickens everything into a hearty, filling broth that warms you right to your toes. Fish the bone out, shred any meat back in, and you've a great potful for very little money. It thickens as it sits, so a splash of water brings it back the next day. A bowl of this and a bit of bread, and you'll not go hungry. This is exactly the kind of nourishing food we lived on. Number 9, leek and potato soup. Some of the best food is the simplest, and this soup proves it. 2 or 3 leeks, a few potatoes, an onion, and some stock. That's very nearly the whole recipe. You soften the leeks and onion gently in a little butter, add the diced potato and the stock, and simmer until everything's tender. Then you either mash it a bit with a fork for a rustic soup, or blend it smooth if you like it that way. A swirl of milk at the end makes it lovely and creamy without costing much. It's gentle, it's warming, and it's kind on an older tummy. Best of all, the ingredients are among the cheapest in the shop, and it freezes well too. Make a big pot at the start of the week, and you've a light lunch sorted for days. Simple, thrifty, and comforting. Number 10, lentil and bacon soup. Lentils were a great standby in the old days, and they're still one of the cheapest, most filling things you can buy. A bag of red lentils costs pennies and swells right up in the pot. You fry a couple of chopped bacon rashers, or just the bacon bits and offcuts, which the butcher will often give you cheap. Soften an onion and carrot in the fat, then tip in your lentils and a good pour of stock. Simmer it until the lentils collapse into a thick, golden pottage that'll stand your spoon up. The bacon gives it all the flavour it needs, and it's packed with goodness. This is the sort of soup that fills you up and keeps you full for hours, which matters when you're watching the pennies. Make plenty. It thickens beautifully and only improves overnight. Number 11. Kedgeree. Now here's a slightly grander one, though it's still cheap as anything, and it comes to us from the old days of the empire. Kedgeree is smoked fish, rice and eggs, all cooked up together in one pan with a gentle whisper of curry powder. You poach a bit of smoked haddock. The cheaper offcuts do perfectly. Flake it, then stir it through rice you've cooked with an onion and a spoon of mild curry powder. Fold in a chopped boiled egg and a bit of parsley if you have it, and there's your supper. It's warming, it's a touch different, and it uses that little bit of fish to feed you well. A grand way to treat yourself on a Friday without spending much at all. One pan does the whole job, and it reheats nicely for lunch the next day. Number 12. A little cottage pie. You needn't cook a great big cottage pie for a whole family just to enjoy one yourself. Make a small mince mixture. Beef mince, onion, carrot, a spoon of flour and stock, much like your mince and tatties. Spoon it into a little dish and top it with mashed potato. Rough the top up with a fork so it crisps nicely and pop it under the grill or in the oven until it's golden and bubbling round the edges. If you make 2 small ones, you can freeze the second before cooking and have a proper hot dinner ready for a rainy day with no effort at all. It's the same cheap mince stretching into a comforting, complete meal. There's something about that golden potato top that lifts the spirits on a dull evening. Cheap, cheering, and no bother. Number 13. Liver and onions. Liver was always the cheapest thing on the butcher's slab, and it's full of goodness besides. Just the thing when you want a nourishing dinner for very little. You need only a slice or 2 of lamb's liver. Soften a good heap of sliced onions slowly in the pan until they're sweet and golden. Then push them aside and fry your liver quickly. Just a minute or 2 each side, mind, for liver goes hard and dry if you overcook it. Make a little gravy in the pan with a spoon of flour and some stock. Tip the onions back in and serve it over mash. It's a proper old-fashioned plate of food, rich and satisfying, and it costs a fraction of a steak. One pan done in minutes. Your mother likely made this, and there's a reason it never went out of fashion in thrifty homes. Number 14. Panacalty. Here's a grand old northeast dish you may not have met, and it's the essence of one-pot thrift. Panacalty is a layered bake of sliced potato, onion and corned beef, or a bit of leftover meat, all built up in a dish with a little stock poured over. You cover it and let it cook slow and gentle until the potatoes are soft and have soaked up all the savoury juices. Then take the lid off at the end to brown the top. It was a way of turning a tin of corned beef and a few spuds into a hot, filling dinner, and it does the same job just as well today. Everything cooks together in the one dish, so there's barely a thing to wash. Cheap, warming, and the sort of honest food that fills you up on a cold night. Lovely stuff. Number 15. Welsh caul. Over the border in Wales, they've a broth called caul, and it's cooking of the thriftiest, kindest sort. It's a slow-simmered pot of cheap lamb or beef with potato, swede, carrot, and leek, whatever root vegetables are going cheap that week. You let it cook long and gentle until the meat is falling apart and the vegetables have flavoured the broth right through. Some folk eat the broth first and the meat and veg after to make 2 courses of the one pot. It's traditionally left overnight and eaten the next day when the flavours have settled and deepened, so it suits cooking ahead beautifully. A bit of bread and a lump of cheese alongside, and you've a feast for pennies. This is peasant food in the very best sense. Humble, hearty, and made with love. Number 16. Irish stew. There's a reason Irish stew has fed families for generations. It's about as cheap and simple as a proper dinner gets. All it takes is some cheap mutton or lamb, onions and potatoes, layered in a pot with water or stock and simmered slow and long. No browning, no fuss, just gentle cooking until the meat is tender and some of the potato has broken down to thicken the broth. A bit of pearl barley bulks it out further if you fancy. It's plain, honest food that warms you through and asks almost nothing of your purse. Make a good potful and it'll do you 2 or 3 dinners, tasting better each time you reheat it. When the weather turns and you want something that hugs you from the inside, this is the pot to reach for. Simple as can be and all the better for it. Number 17. Cheese and potato pie. This was a favourite in many a household on a meatless day, and it costs barely anything at all. You boil and mash your potatoes, stir in a good handful of grated cheese, a bit of butter, and a softened onion if you like. Then pile it into a dish and roughen the top with a fork. Under the grill or into the oven it goes until the top is crisp and golden, and the cheese is melting through. A spoonful of English mustard mixed into the mash lifts the cheese a treat, just as I always said. Serve it with a spoon of baked beans or a bit of pickle, and it's a proper comforting supper for one. It uses store cupboard staples you likely have to hand, so it's the perfect thing when you'd rather not go out. Cheap, filling, and ready in no time. Number 18. Cullen skink. Don't let the funny name put you off. Cullen skink is just a wonderful thick Scottish soup of smoked haddock, potato and onion, and it makes a little fish stretch into a proper meal. You gently poach the smoked haddock in milk, then soften an onion and some diced potato in the pot before adding the fish, its milk and a little stock. Some of the potato breaks down to thicken it into something rich and creamy without needing a scrap of cream. Flake the fish back through and there's a bowlful that eats like a main course. It's warming, it's a touch special, and the cheaper smoked haddock offcuts do the job perfectly. A bit of crusty bread to dip and you'll think you're dining out. One pot and a lovely way to treat yourself for very little. Number 19. One pot macaroni cheese. Most folk make macaroni cheese the long way, with a separate sauce, but there's a cleverer method that leaves you just the one pan to wash. You cook the macaroni in a measured amount of milk and a little water, stirring now and then, and as the pasta softens, the starch thickens the milk into a creamy sauce all on its own. Then you simply stir your grated cheese through it off the heat until it melts into a glossy, comforting bowlful. A pinch of mustard powder and a good grind of pepper is all it needs. Cheese and pasta cost little, and this makes a warming, filling supper in under 20 minutes with hardly any effort. Do a small potful for one, or a bit extra to warm through tomorrow. On a tired evening when you want comfort in a hurry, this is just the ticket. Number 20. A good curried mince. Let's finish with a supper that turns cheap mince into something with a bit of warmth and spice, the way many of us learned to after the war. You brown your beef mince with an onion, stir in a spoonful of mild curry powder and a little flour, then add stock, a chopped carrot, and a handful of peas or sultanas if you like a touch of sweetness. Let it simmer down into a thick, savoury curry and serve it over rice cooked in the same pan, or with a bit of bread to mop it up. It's gentle, it's filling, and it uses that same penny-wise mince in a new way, so you never tire of it. Make plenty and freeze it in portions. A hot, tasty dinner for a day you can't be bothered cooking. Cheap, cheering, and a fine note to end on. And there you have it. 20 cheap, vintage, one-pot meals. Every one of them kind to your purse and easy on the washing up. Cooking for one needn't be a chore or a lonely business. Make a little extra, tuck some away in the freezer, and you'll always have a proper hot dinner waiting when you want it. So which of these did your own mother used to make? Do let me know in the comments and tell me which you'll be trying first. Now, I think it's time I put the kettle on. Take care of yourself and happy cooking!